The New York Times piece that Lev sent.
This is just the CIA ran interference for Mykola Lebed, who organized what these people did to the Poles. And this is one of the reasons why Poland, I mean, like, not joking, Hannibal Lecter would consider it excessive. Okay. I mean, they hanged babies on barbed wire like they're Christmas garlands. Like, they really they spent 2 years learning genocide, and then they went loose on these Polish villagers. And this is somebody who's just a tremendously evil man.
Well, they didn't just run interference for Mykola Lebed, who was they brought him over to America under an assumed identity. And in fact, he came over by boat with under a different name, because they knew that that he was to basically get around State Department restrictions on bringing in Nazi collaborators. They put him up in his apartment of his uncle at first, actually in Williamsburg, actually right around the corner from where I used to live. And then they funded through the 80s, essentially until the collapse of the Soviet Union. They funded this Ukrainian research agency that ran a magazine and that put out a lot of information called Prologue. I mean, that was essentially one of the kind of most important institutions in publishing this rewritten Ukrainian history that deleted all the Nazi collaboration, all the genocidal politics, and kind of rebranded this Ukrainian fascist diaspora into good Democrats and good anti-communists. And they funded it all through the end of the Cold War. So they didn't just run interference for him. They sustained him. They paid him a salary. I mean, he got paid out of a CIA covert budget. This guy who was a mass murderer and he would like do target practice on Jews, as part of his Gestapo training and stuff like that. I mean, he was, even the CIA in its files, labeled him as like an extremely sadistic person.
Just send me this, Lev. So here's
I don't know what Twitter account it's from, but I know that the photo.
It's funny, I've had in my drafts. I don't know why I've never published it, but I kind of did a big I went a little bit. I went down the rabbit hole and basically read everything about Mykola Lebed that there was in the CIA's declassified files, because they declassified a lot of their files that had to do with basically supporting the Nazi collaborators and part of a settlement that they reached, right? And so I never published it, but I know this guy very well. He's a real piece of work, and I know the Village Voice was the first one to
it was Joe Coniston.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, wow.
And it was like To Catch a Nazi. He was living in retirement in New Jersey. Very comfortably. The journalist came up to his house. Snapped a photo of him, and it was on the cover of the Village Voice. I don't remember the exact year. It was the mid to late 80s.
Yeah, it was like 87
86,
or so.
86, exactly. 86, 87. It was extremely. I mean, I remember in the files, in the CIA files, I know that the Ukrainian community that was backed by the CIA was extremely worried about that reporting. I mean, it actually reminds. Looking at that stuff reminds me how amazing actually America's alternative press used to be. I mean, you'd have this alternative press in the city, in New York, that actually did incredible investigative journalism, would break these stories. Now it's all just like people.
The Katie Halper show.
Exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. And people bitching about each other on Substack.
On Twitter. Yeah.
I have a source who, again, I haven't confirmed this, but who also said that they also, these Ukrainian diaspora, they formed very strong communities in swing states. So one of the things that happened is the State Department was told to pump the brakes because they were in the Rust Belt. They were in Michigan, they were in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and they vote very strongly together. So they were basically they were told to pump the brakes on trying to don't go looking for Eastern European collaborators. Only look for just the other ones or whatever. So it's truly amazing what a home they found. Like I sent you this the photo of the man. This is Yaroslav Stetsko.
This guy?
Yes.
Yeah, he organized the Holocaust in Western Ukraine. Okay,
yes.
he said he was one of their brain people who he said, I insist on exterminating the Jews in Ukraine. And right before the invasion, he assured Bandera, the main leader of the OUN faction, he said, we have prepared a militia to exterminate the Jews. This is and he actually was part of a government that swore loyalty to Hitler.
Yep.
Okay, he became this wonderful man, okay, this nice man. And look at the obituary that the Washington Post did to him: Yaroslav Stetsko, the lonely patriot.
Oh my God!
And about he's a quiet, unassuming man who like it's. I mean, you can just put up the title. You'll say so. It's just when I did this project for Ukrainian and just in general Eastern European collaborators, it was just crazy because I did this project on monuments to them, and every other person was like, "You went to America and lived happily ever." Every
lonely
other
patriot. My God.
Yaroslav Stetsko, the lonely patriot.
Yeah.
The small, thin man introduces himself simply as Stetsko, Prime Minister of Ukraine. Prime Minister of Ukraine. He was the Prime Minister of the government that specifically allied themselves with the Nazis and swore fealty to Hitler.
Yeah, I mean, he founded the ABN, the anti-Bolshevik. What was it?
Yeah, he ran for the anti-Bolshevik League of Nations.
Yeah, or whatever it was called, right? Captive nations and
which is a who's who of Holocaust
former Nazis. Yeah, let me interject one more quick thing in there, because being the old guy here, in the very end of the 70s, so like every now and then, some of this Nazis around in our house thing would kind of percolate up, like through a Drew Pearson, who was Jack Anderson's predecessor, call him or something, and then it would get very quickly hushed and suppressed. But after all the sort of in the mid and late 70s was kind of American Glasnost, our brief Glasnost period, and we had all these revelations, and it came out about a lot of these programs about how many Nazi collaborators that we spirited into the U.S. and saved from justice. And so I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember right, it was under Carter in his later years, they actually set up like a commission, and there were books about it, and it was a very big deal briefly. It's weird to think. So like it was a very big deal briefly in popular culture. That's kind of what Marathon Man comes out of, like that realization that this is happening. And then it just got, because there wasn't internet then, it was a lot easier to reimpose kind of selective amnesia.
Right.
And only kind of crazy people would actually still remember. But one thing, when I went back and read, like, I think it was John Loftus, I think was his name, who wrote.
Yes.
He was Carter's main guy. And I think even through Reagan a bit, he was still there. Who was kind of in charge of flushing out Nazis in America. But if I remember his book right, and I remember the articles right, there was a real absence of Ukrainians. There were Belarusians, there were Georgians, there were Cossacks, Tartars, Russians, Hungarians. Like there was everybody but Ukraine. Like why would it have been a revelation that Mykola Lebed was there? I mean, Mykola Lebed was the head of the Ukrainian SS. That's what he was. He was Himmler. Yeah, go ahead.
Very quickly, and I know, sorry, I've been babbling. I've just been
no.
all day. The Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church played a crucial role in forming SS Galician. They actually had chaplain. The Nazis did not want competing ideologies. There's only 3 groups in the SS, 3 divisions that had chaplains. There was a Bosnian division that had imams. There was a Flemish division, and then there was the Ukrainian, the Waffen SS that this guy was part of, where they actually had. And there's amazing photographs of like in SS uniform with also priest robes on them. Okay, so the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church played a key role in this, and this is also one of the reasons why there's so many Ukrainian SS people here, because at the end of the war, the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church is kind of like, it's under the Vatican, but it's its own thing. It's a very weird relationship, but it is ultimately under the Vatican. And the Vatican played a crucial role in lobbying the governments of the West to let these people into the to let them out. So the reason why 8,000 went to the UK, why 2,000 went to Canada, is because so many of the others were sent to the Soviet Union, or at least not welcomed. Okay, but the Vatican there was a very tight network that organized this and that lobbied. It's Hitler's Pope, Pius XII. He was the same guy the Nazi adjacent guy. He lobbied his ass off to get these people freed and to get them cleared.